That's it. We're getting divorced. Get out with our daughter. Daniel declared his intention to divorce. In his right hand was the divorce papers, and in his left, he held his mistress. He spoke as if I were a nuisance. I don't understand what you're talking about. I've been single for a week now. I'm no longer your wife, so do as you please. Of course, I'll be leaving with our daughter. Hey, Sandra, what kind of joke is this? When did we get divorced? The divorce is supposed to happen now. You're the one who's crazy, Dad. Mom and I already moved into our new house. My name is Sandra, a 40-year-old housewife. I've been married to Daniel for 11 years. Our daughter Kelly is now 10 years old, very smart and a good kid. At first glance, we seem like a happy family, but that's not the case. Over the years, my husband has stopped valuing our family, neglecting both me and Kelly. We also have another headache. My mother-in-law, she has always pressured me to have a male heir, and that pressure has haunted me for years. Moreover, she doesn't care for our daughter. Initially, my husband adored our daughter, but recently he has joined his mother in treating us poorly. Kelly and I were fed up with their behavior. How could they treat their family so poorly and not care? My father-in-law was a great man, and I can't believe my husband has become so horrible. People really do change because of their environment. At some point, I started wanting a divorce. I had been enduring it for Kelly's sake, but things kept happening that I couldn't ignore. So, I began preparing for a divorce in a hurry. There are still many things to worry about, but I had to move forward. Then one day, my husband suddenly brought his mistress home. Who is this? My mistress. Mistress? I was shocked that he brought his mistress home, and Daniel smirked and said, Sandra, I've told you many times that I wanted a son, but you gave birth to a girl. I don't need someone useless like you. We're getting divorced. Get out with our daughter. Daniel declared his intention to divorce. In his right hand was the divorce papers, and in his left, he held his mistress. As I was stunned by his outrageous words, the woman next to him spoke. Hello, I'm Hannah. I'm pregnant with Daniel's child. It's a boy. The doctor has already confirmed it. I'll make Daniel happy. Please don't get in the way. My husband's mistress said that to me. She talks as if I'm the one in the way. On top of that, my mother-in-law delivered the final blow. Sander deceived you, Daniel. So don't ever show your face again. It seems there's not a single decent person around here. I can't understand how such heartless words can come out of their mouths. Glancing at the entrance, I was just stunned. However, I was no longer surprised or upset. I don't understand what you're talking about. I've been single for a week now. I'm no longer your wife, so do as you please. Of course, I'll be leaving with our daughter. Hey, Sandra, what kind of joke is this? When did we get divorced? The divorce is supposed to happen now. Dad's the one who's crazy. Mom and I already moved into our new house. Even Kelly is saying this. Absolutely ridiculous. My husband pointed at us and laughed loudly, probably loud enough for the neighbors to hear. He can only laugh now. He doesn't know anything. I know everything. I will never forgive my husband. He will regret hurting our daughter. While my husband continued to laugh, I calmly spoke. The fool here is you, Daniel. I'm telling you. I submitted the divorce papers a week ago. You just didn't know. They say you never know what a cornered person will do, and it's true. I never thought you'd say such foolish things so easily, but this is the real you. A liar without a shred of integrity. Being freed from a life with you, Sandra, I'll be able to live fully. My husband looked down at me with disdain. My mother-in-law and Hannah agreed with him. Honestly, why did I ever allow such an incompetent woman to marry my son? I want to slap my past self. You've wasted Daniel's precious time. It's the biggest mistake of my life. Watching you get dumped is my only consolation. Stop barking and disappear now. Daniel is too kind to have put up with such a terrible wife. But in the end, he chose well. Don't disappoint someone as merciful as him. Sandra, stop these ridiculous lies. Set Daniel free. It's for your own good too. My mother-in-law and Hannah were like villains straight out of a story. They say a person's true nature is revealed through their actions, but to cause such discomfort with just a laugh is quite a talent. However, evil will always be punished. I will judge this evil. They will regret it. I displayed a specific video on my phone and showed it to the three of them. Do you know what this is? A video? What about it? This is footage of your room, Daniel. What? Why is this foolish woman filming Daniel's room? They really didn't seem to understand. They call others fools, but the real problem lies in their own heads. Given their low intelligence, it's no wonder they engage in illogical behavior like cheating, and that my mother-in-law easily forgives it. This is footage from a hidden camera. I've been monitoring Daniel's activities. I installed a camera in his room, so I knew about him and his mistress, and I secretly prepared the divorce papers. Why would you put something like that in my room? I installed the hidden camera when you weren't home and submitted the divorce papers to the city hall. If you don't believe me, check the divorce papers yourself. You'll see that there's nothing left in the drawer of the closet. My husband, still skeptical, returned to his room, but when he came back, he was completely pale. It seems he realized what I said was true. My mother-in-law and Hannah also stopped laughing when they saw his face. I can't believe it. The wife had been through everything in advance. Well, it's surprising, but isn't this actually convenient? Yeah, it saves us the trouble of going to the city hall. Let's get remarried right away. There's nothing stopping us now. That's right. Come to think of it, we haven't done anything wrong. We're just cutting ties with a useless wife sooner. This woman couldn't give us a boy. She wasn't good enough for Daniel. Now he can start fresh. My mother-in-law laughed loudly. As a mother, I understand a parent's feelings. It's true that my husband took over his late father's company and earns more than the average person. Since we were married, I know how hard he works. But loving a competent son doesn't justify bullying his wife. The harsh words my mother-in-law has said to me since our marriage remained painful memories. It was really tough. My daughter was my only ally. I can't forgive them for trying to belittle even my daughter. I'm the only one who can protect my beloved daughter. I will repay them for their past wrongs. I took out a small piece of paper from the drawer and showed it to the wicked trio. My husband and mother-in-law stared at it with puzzled expressions. What's this? A business card. Randy Smith, President and CEO. Isn't this the business card of that big company CEO? Why does Sandra have something like this? There's no way you'd have a chance to interact with such a big shot. They accused me. They only saw me as a housekeeper. That's why they make such condescending remarks without hesitation. But I'm just a human too, and sharp words hurt me. However, they don't seem to understand that. Meanwhile, Hannah had turned pale. Noticing this, my husband spoke to her. Hannah, what's wrong? You look unwell. Of course, if you suddenly see your father's business card, you'd wonder what's happening. What? Father? Who father? Seeing my husband clearly agitated, I smiled. Yes, you had no idea. Let me say it loud and clear. Your mistress is the daughter of one of our business partners' CEO. Ridiculous. How could such a convenient coincidence happen? You're completely out of your mind. I've always thought you were a strange wife, but to say something this absurd. Indeed, how does someone grow up to be so embarrassing? I'd like to ask your parents. I was infuriated by my mother-in-law's remark, which insulted not only me but my family as well. She really is a person who looks down on others effortlessly. My daughter too puffed up her cheek in anger. Seeing her, I felt a bit calmer. In response to my husband and mother-in-law's comments, Hannah also confronted me with a provocative attitude. Daniel and Mother are right. I don't know anything about some big company CEO. I've never met such a person or even heard of them. Don't create some fake family. You incompetent fool. That's the truth. I've met Mr. Smith, the CEO, and Hannah looks nothing like him, but I recognize her as the CEO's daughter. Hannah has grace and is impressive. Unlike you. That's right. She must have grown up in a wonderful family. Unlike your failure. Your daughter's future can't compare to hers. My mother-in-law openly gave my daughter a cold look. My daughter glared back at her fiercely. I slammed the prepared documents onto the table in anger. What now? What are you trying to do? Do you know what this is, Hannah Smith? This is your birth certificate. As it says here, Hannah is Mr. Smith's adopted child. That's why she doesn't resemble him. How do you have Hannah's birth certificate? Because Mr. Smith and I are in a cooperative relationship. After finding out about your affair, I reached out to him. He was happy to give it to me. What? My husband shouted in disbelief. How can I believe such nonsense? He's the CEO of a big company. There's no way you'd meet him so easily. That birth certificate must be fake. You've finally resorted to forgery. We won't be fooled by such a fake. You are the fools. Forging a birth certificate is a serious crime. I wouldn't take such a risk just for you. If I got arrested, it would trouble our daughter. Then why do you have such a document? You must have prepared it to confuse us. They desperately wanted to deny the relationship between Mr. Smith and Hannah. Indeed, if they found out that his mistress was the daughter of a business partner's CEO, it would be disastrous. People tend to reject inconvenient truths, but that's okay because the truth will come out eventually. If you think it's fake, that's fine. I'm just telling you the facts. My calm demeanor began to change. My husband and mother-in-law's expressions. Their smiles faded and sweat appeared on their foreheads. My husband turned to Hannah and asked anxiously, Hannah, just to be sure, you're not deceiving me, right? Hannah shook her head firmly. Of course not. I could never deceive the one I love. Mr. Smith is a stranger to me. I wanted a child with Daniel because I love him. That feeling is genuine. Hannah's firm assertion made me burst into applause. Wow, Hannah, you showed such strong determination. It's truly touching how much you love Daniel. So, I have a special gift for you. Wait a moment. I left the living room, ignoring the piercing gazes on my back. I went outside and quickly returned with the gift. Sorry to keep you waiting. It's time for the present. What? Seriously? Hannah stepped back in surprise. Standing there was none other than Mr. Smith himself. I had arranged for him to wait outside. That's why I had left the front door slightly open. When my husband presented the divorce papers, I glanced at the entrance to check if Mr. Smith had arrived. My husband, though shocked, quickly regained his composure and lowered his head. Mr. Smith, thank you for coming despite your busy schedule. Oh, don't worry about it. I apologize for the sudden visit. There's no need for formal greetings. Mr. Smith brushed off my husband's greeting and gave him a cold look. His forehead was furrowed, and he was clearly angry. I've been waiting outside the front door, and I heard a very interesting conversation. Daniel, I'm glad I got to know your true nature. I can't believe there are people who can use such vulgar language so easily. The world is indeed vast. Knowing that Mr. Smith had heard everything, my husband could no longer make excuses. He just stood there sweating and bowing his head. Mr. Smith also turned his gaze to Hannah. Hannah was trembling. Aren't you ashamed of your actions? What you are doing is unforgivable. As human beings, marriage is different from a romance. Once you exchange wedding vows, you should fulfill at least the minimum responsibilities. Apologize to Sandra immediately. Mr. Smith's voice echoed through the room, heavy and solemn. Both my husband and Hannah were completely terrified, but my mother-in-law remained defiant. If eternal love is important, Daniel and Hannah deeply love each other. Sandra doesn't love Daniel anymore. She even filed for divorce herself. So, it's only natural for two people in love to be together. There's nothing wrong with that. Her words were unbelievable. Indeed, it is beautiful for two people in love to be together. However, that applies only if both parties are free. Moreover, Daniel and Sandra have a daughter. Discarding someone because she can't bear a son is extremely outdated. If you live in the modern era, you need to update your thinking. Mr. Smith's stern tone finally silenced my mother-in-law. The room fell silent. It was clear why Mr. Smith was so furious. His wife was also infertile, and they had no children. While some people hold outdated beliefs, we must not forget that there are people who cannot have children despite wanting them. Pregnancy and childbirth are sacred. Mr. Smith couldn't forgive the selfish motives that hurt families. Both my husband and my mother-in-law were completely subdued by Mr. Smith's overwhelming presence, but Hannah couldn't hide her anger. Facing Mr. Smith, she began to rebel. Why do you act so superior like a god? Aren't you selfish too? You adopted me because you couldn't have kids. Whether it was good or bad for me didn't matter. It was just for the convenience of adults. Hannah shouted, trembling with anger. I don't know Mr. Smith very well, but I've heard he was strict and didn't spoil Hannah unnecessarily. Because of that, Hannah feels like she wasn't a real daughter and wasn't loved. My husband and mother-in-law were confused about how to handle the sudden family argument that had stemmed from our divorce discussion. Unable to control her emotions, Hannah continued to accuse Mr. Smith. You adopted me just because mom wanted kids. I was just a tool to make her happy. You didn't care about me at all. Although my relationship with Mr. Smith is brief, I understand that he is fundamentally a good person. That's why I think Hannah's accusations are wrong. However, Mr. Smith calmly accepted Hannah's words. Say whatever you want. I'm listening. Does it make you happy to see me angry, Hannah? It's because you've opened your heart for the first time. When you were little, you were always quiet and never said anything. But now I see that you're different. I understand what you've been holding on to all this time. Tears welled up in Hannah's eyes and her body trembled slightly. I was strict with you and I'm sorry. But that's because I love you. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't say anything. Shut up. I can't believe anything you say now. I was never loved by my family. Hannah, stop it. You don't understand anything. Even as an outsider, I can see your father cares about you, yet you're denying it one-sidedly. Right now, you look like a child throwing a tantrum. I couldn't help but interject. As a parent, I couldn't stay silent any longer. Being a parent is more difficult than one can imagine, and you can't quit halfway. You pour everything into your child without expecting anything in return. But sometimes it turns into resentment. After raising them with all your effort, you eventually have to let them go. It's a very tough job, but the reason you can keep being a parent is because of the love and responsibility you have for your child. Mr. Smith possesses that in abundance. However, Hannah is currently overwhelmed by her emotions and can't see the facts. How can you, a woman abandoned by your family, act all superior? You were dumped by a man and have no other way to live. I'll take everything from you and watch you fall into hell. When Hannah's anger turned towards me, my husband and mother-in-law regained their vigor. That's right. We don't know about Hannah's past, but it's certain that she will be happy from now on because she will marry me. Yes, Daniel is a truly wonderful man. A useless woman like you can't handle him. From now on, he'll start a new life with a woman worthy of him. I'm really looking forward to it. A parent's happiness is in their child's happiness. While that statement isn't wrong, it's hard to believe coming from my mother-in-law. My daughter seemed to feel the same way, giving my mother-in-law a cold stare. Finally, I sighed and declared boldly to the unapologetic trio, I don't care. Do as you like. Get remarried or whatever. But the ones who will regret it in the end are you. That's for sure. At my resolute demeanor, my husband and mother-in-law hesitated for a moment, but ended up proudly holding Hannah's hand. A sore loser's howl is pathetic. Keep barking as much as you want. You incompetent fool. Don't interfere with us anymore. The four of us will be happy from now on. We won't see you or let you see the child again. They said and left the house. The room was left in a silence like after a storm. Mr. Smith was the first to speak. Sandra, Kelly, I'm really sorry for what my daughter has done. Don't worry about it. It's not your fault, Mr. Smith. It's okay. What's okay? There's still an unknown fact that will come to light eventually. Mr. Smith understood my words and nodded. A few days later, I was waiting for a call from my husband in a luxury apartment. This place boasts one of the best views in the city, and I like it very much. The long wait wasn't too boring as I enjoyed my second cup of coffee while looking at the scenery. Eventually, the much-anticipated call came. I answered in a very bright voice and I heard my clearly frantic husband's voice. What do you want? We just cut ties a few days ago. Help me, Sandra. Hannah is missing. That's unfortunate, but isn't that a job for the police? There's nothing I can do about it. No, Sandra. It's not just that. Hannah is missing. My ATM card and credit cards are also gone. I told her the PIN before. Do something. Money is being withdrawn rapidly. Hearing my husband desperately talking was so ridiculous that I burst into loud laughter. My husband continued to rant about something. He was clearly panicking. After laughing thoroughly, I finally told him the truth. Listen, Hannah has another man besides you. What are you saying all of a sudden? Don't confuse me with unnecessary things at a time like this. It's the truth. The child Hannah is carrying isn't yours either. Lies. It's all lies. You're always like this. Enjoying driving me into a corner. You're horrible." My husband was at a loss for words and started crying. Just a few days ago, his love nest was destroyed, and he seemed quite distressed. My mother-in-law must be worried too, but to me, it's just an amusing story. I'll prove it's the truth now. Guess where I am right now? How should I know? You're mocking me. Go to hell. That's a terrible thing to say. You're the one going to hell now. Here's the answer. I switched to a video call and showed my surroundings. Immediately, I heard my husband's surprised voice from the phone. "Hannah, why are you with Sandra? Were you two deceiving me?" Hannah stayed silent with her head down. The reason was obvious. I had her weakness in my hands. "Daniel, it's not just Hannah here. Look over here. This is Hannah's true lover, Aaron." With my introduction, Aaron appeared on the screen. Actually, I had been in contact with Hannah's true lover for a while now. We're confronting Hannah at her house. From the other side of the screen, I heard a louder scream than before. "Wait a minute. You're the one who used up my money, aren't you? Give me back my ATM card and credit cards and return the money you spent too." "Watch your mouth. I know nothing about your cards. We're just trying to understand the situation here." Aaron glared sharply at Hannah. Hannah lowered her head even more. Daniel questioned Hannah over the video call. "Hannah, what is this? Who is that man? Your lover?" "No way. We loved each other. Tell me the truth." "Huh? What are you talking about? I mean, you and I." "Enough. Shut up. You idiot. What do you mean we loved each other? I never loved you. Not even once. It was all in your head. I was just with you for your money, and yet you got caught cheating so easily. You're such a worthless man." Hannah's angry outburst left my husband completely speechless. After being stunned for a while, he suddenly buried his face in his desk and began to cry loudly. He sobbed like an animal, his tears flowing without stopping. He was no longer in a state to hold a conversation. Meanwhile, Aaron was harshly questioning Hannah. In response, Hannah was also lashing out, creating a tense atmosphere. I didn't want to stay in such a place any longer, and I wanted to go home and relax with my daughter right away. However, I couldn't abandon something I had started. Since I would no longer be involved with Aaron and Hannah, I quietly stood up and headed to the hallway. I waited patiently for my husband to calm down. After crying his heart out, he finally raised his swollen face. Just when I felt relieved that we could finally have the closing conversation, he made a surprising proposal. "Let's start over, Sandra. We can still get back together." "Huh? What are you talking about? It must be tough raising our daughter alone financially. Besides, it's better for the family to be together. Mom will understand too. It's pretty convenient to talk about family now." Though the words should have been warm coming from my husband, they sounded utterly hateful. I glared at him with all the contempt I could muster. "No way. Do you have any idea how much I've suffered because of you? And it's not just about me. What I'm most angry about is how you hurt our daughter. I never thought you would not only cheat but also neglect your own daughter. It's just that I really wanted a son to carry on the family name. There's no excuse for it. But it's not too late. If we love each other, we can still have a son. Don't say disgusting things. I don't have a shred of love left for you. I can't even stand to breathe the same air as you, let alone touch you. And you keep talking about needing an heir, but that's not necessary anymore, is it? What do you mean? Your foolish actions have already been exposed to the company and our business partners. It's becoming a big issue everywhere, and soon all existing contracts will be canceled. When that happens, the company will face financial difficulties and might even go bankrupt. If the company collapses, an heir won't matter anymore." "No. No way." My husband fell silent, stunned. I delivered my final blow filled with all the sarcasm I could muster. "The only family you have left is your mother. Make sure to get along well with her." I hung up the call and left Hannah's house. That was the last time I saw my husband. The clear blue sky looked even more beautiful today. After that, my husband was abandoned not only by the company's employees, but also by our business partners one after another. The company inevitably faced financial difficulties and quickly decided to close. As he ran out of money, the once close mother and son relationship deteriorated, and now they constantly fight. Rumors about my husband spread throughout the industry, leaving him with no prospects for reemployment. My mother-in-law, who had never worked a part-time job in her life, couldn't start working now and spent her days complaining at home. My husband somehow managed to make ends meet with day labor, but his standard of living continued to decline. Their appearances and relationship deteriorated, and they would live a miserable life forever. It was a fitting end for those who treated children as tools. On the other hand, Hannah successfully gave birth, but eventually broke up with Aaron. Her true love, Aaron, was a decent man after all. When you find out your lover has been cheating and stealing from someone else, it's natural not to want to be involved in the mess. Though it's not my business, I hope Aaron finds happiness. Having broken up with Aaron, Hannah had no choice but to rely on her father, Mr. Smith. As she had never worked properly before, however, Mr. Smith, who was strict with both himself and others, did not spoil her and instead pushed her away. Of course, this didn't mean he abandoned her because he loves Hannah. Mr. Smith wants her to acknowledge her mistakes, reflect, and live positively. I also owe Mr. Smith a lot. I sincerely hope his feelings reach her. As for me, I now live peacefully with my daughter. While not wealthy, living without fear of cohabiting family members is truly comfortable. I want my daughter to be very happy, making up for all the hardships she has endured. Later, I remarried a man I met at my new job. He loves my daughter as if she were his own. My daughter has grown fond of him too, and I hope the three of us will continue to live happily together as a family.